There was a point in time where I would get very excited about news of a new Fast and the Furious movie. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the first one came out, when it was just simply about car culture, street racing, and just, actually a pretty good familial story about a man trying to reconcile with his past, trying to mend his family back together, and how a cop is having second thoughts about, taking down an illegal, well, it's kind of redundant, but a criminal gang, and, giving them a second lease on life. Which is funny, now that I think about it, is kind of a repeated story point for the last film that I checked out in the series. Actually, I think I watched 6 at home at a later date, because I think, Gina Carano was the heavy in the 6th one. I don't remember anything else about that movie, but I'll tell you the moment when, the franchise jumped the shark was to see that bank safe being dragged down the streets of Rio de Janeiro. It's like, okay, man, I can stomach pretending that The Rock can actually act. Okay, it is offset by just the raw charisma of Vin Diesel. I can go ahead and stomach that, but a fucking bank vault, being dragged behind a Charger on a weak ass looking chain, bro, there's a moment where a suspension of disbelief gets breached and it's never brought back. I just resign myself. I think I was with a friend and we were sitting about 3 or 4 rows from the front. It was a long time ago at this point in time, but yeah, Fast 5, I mean, like, the moment that happened on the screen, I just took out my phone and was just like, I'm done with this stuff, man. This is absolutely wild. But yeah, thinking about how much of a departure that this franchise, and I know this is well trodden ground at this point, but yeah, to hear that, to apparently wrap up the series, which now we're at the point where, okay, Fast 10, so the 10th installment in this franchise is going to have a part 2, which is interesting in and of itself, but it's also gonna come back, it's gonna get back to street level. There's gonna be a return to basics, which, spoilers, I actually have a video that's in the can on this that I recorded a long time ago talking about this very subject, so don't be surprised if you see that sometime in the future, especially before the release of this film. Actually, I can pretty much guarantee I'll have that video out before this film ends up getting released, because we actually have a release date. But you just simply circle back on all the source material that they've covered prior to this, a back to basics strategy. Like, these motherfuckers went to space, okay? They were racing cars under the ocean and at atmosphere. Like, I'm glad that you're making stuff more realistic, but you jumped the shark. You jumped the space whales at this point in time. Like, I don't know if there's anything to ground this. But yeah, man, if you're bringing everybody back, if you're trying to give this a long-running franchise a proper send-off, I'm a little bit more happy that it's just coming back to basics. So yes, Vin Diesel says that the final Fast and Furious movie will return to car culture and street racing in LA. Don't know how you do it, especially, coming off of the previous installment, but I'll be interested to see, because yeah, for as cynical as I am when it comes to, long-running franchises with more and more obscure and insane sequel premises, I do have a bit of a soft spot for the Fast and Furious movies. I can look down to my media shelf and I can see everything. I got the Blu-ray box set for the first 3, and then after Tokyo Drift, which I'm old enough to remember when everybody thought that was the shit one in the franchise. Okay, and then you had Fast and Furious, and then you had Fast 5, and then you got Fast 6. I guess I have oh shit, I actually do have 8. Funny how the 8th one's called the Fate of the Furious, and then I don't know what 9 was, and then obviously Fast X is Fast X. But in bringing everything full circle and back to basics, there's a little bit of a dynamic that they would have to broach, and it's, well, not exactly entirely sure how they're going to do this, okay, because I got a couple of ideas, and apparently, according to Vin Diesel, announces the final Fast and Furious film's release date reveals the return of Paul Walker's Brian O'Connor. Now, if you don't know, Paul Walker has been dead for, 5-6 years at this point in time? Actually, no, even longer than that. I think he was eased out at, the 7th movie? So, how are they going to do this? Okay, the final Fast and the Furious film is on the way and will include even more familiar faces than fans expected. Vin Diesel surprised the crowd at the Fuel Fest in Sonoma, California on Saturday with a special announcement about the upcoming franchise finale. In addition to revealing the film's release date, the actor broke some news about a certain fan favorite character's return. The studio said to me, "Vin, can we please have the finale of Fast and the Furious in April of 2027? Jesus Christ, man. We're really scheduling shit. just about 2 years out, huh? Diesel began before the cheering crowd said. I said, under 3 conditions. He laid them out in this terms. Okay, first is to bring the franchise back to LA. All right, okay. The second thing is we have to return to car culture and to street racing, which, yeah, at this point in time, man. If we're going to try to do like a Top Gun Maverick for Fast and the Furious, that would be kind of insane, but yeah, I kind of want it. Yeah, I kind of want it. And then also the third thing is reuniting Dom and Brian O'Connor. Ooh, yeah, that's tough. Okay, that's not exactly what I wanted to hear, because I was thinking, perhaps you do like some family flashbacks or something like that. You show old footage from some of the previous movies. Like, you could do that if you want to come full circle. You want to wrap up everybody's story all nice in a bow. Send all your characters off with a very happy, appropriate manner. I can get behind that, but are you going to do what I think you're going to do? Oh, God, I hope not. But yes, Diesel is referring to the character previously portrayed by the late Paul Walker, who starred in 6 franchise installments before he was killed in a car crash in November 2013. Oh, wow, it was that long ago, huh? 12 years. Yeah, 2013 was 12 years ago at 40. Jeez. Though Diesel offered no details on how Brian's return to the franchise will be achieved, several franchises has controversially turned to CGI technology to resurrect beloved characters after their death. Yeah, and the original actors, including Carrie Fisher's Lara Organa in a Rogue One. Well, no, they used the de-aged because... Was Carrie Fisher... Oh, man, because I know that she died after principal photography for The Last Jedi, but before the release of the movie. But she was there was a very much de-aged Carrie Fisher, but then there's also a much more prominent example with Peter Cushing's Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. Yeah, his family and the estate wasn't even informed that he was going to be there, and then they cut them, Disney cut them a non-aggressive 4-digit check for his likeness. It's like, that was so scummy. But yeah, Star Wars, they're pretty egregious in their shit, okay? And I know that they have the blessing, and they're working with the James Earl Jones estate. So yeah, we're unfortunately gonna have the lifeless re-speech or regurgitation of Darth Vader from now until the end of time. We've also seen a couple of different permutations of de-aged Mark Hamill and his his emotionless voice, brought to you by Respeecher. You were likely to see that a lot more. I'm just wondering how long before Harrison Ford couldn't be bothered to turn up, but he'll go ahead and cash a check for a de-aged Han Solo, because, Alden Ehrenreich, he might have a future in Marvel as Zeke Stain. Nobody remembers that character. That shit only wrapped up not even a week ago, but I digress. But yeah, him coming back and being a younger Han Solo, don't really see that one working out. But yeah, just because Star Wars is stuck in this Ouroboros of shit where they can't make anything new, and if they do, they just go ahead and turf the showrunner of it. But no, they're just going to be key jangling until everything is just an on-screen CGI abomination. But what's the difference? But yes, Christopher Reeve, George Reeves, Nicolas Cage in The Flash, like there were so many abominations there. And hey, if you liked all of that camera work in The Flash, don't worry, I got a film that's coming out, oh shit, at the end of this week. Fuck, that'll be Superman. That is a film that was brought to life by the same cinematographer that worked on The Flash. So yeah, if you liked all of those jelly faces and the weird interpretation of the Speed Force, yeah, don't worry, you can see all of its fish-eyed wonder played out for the Man of Steel. But anyways, yes, and Ian Holmes, Ash, and Alien Romulus. Fucking gross. So gross. So disgustingly gross. And it's so funny, right? Because that's the most recent iteration, and that arguably is the ugliest looking one. But anyways, yes, Walker's 2013 accident occurred while the star was filming Fast and Furious 7. Okay, so it was 7, and he got that send-off at the end. So canonically, his character is still alive, because I think the way that it worked was Paul Walker's brother came in and did some of the pickup shots, and then they used other cuts and CGI'd his face onto his brother's face for other shots that they couldn't quite get, and used far off big wide shots so it wouldn't look too obvious. But yeah, to complete his scenes, production called upon various doubles, CGIs, and even the help of Walker's brothers, to assure a close physical resemblance. So yeah, I understand that technology has advanced quite a bit in the last 12 years, but yeah, it really does get to a point where when are we going to be getting anything new? Now, I understand that, yeah, they're going to be sunsetting the Fast and the Furious, at least for the time being. But we also heard earlier this year that, yeah, Tom Cruise is going to be stepping away from Mission Impossible. We have seen the strides, especially in the past couple of years. Remember when AI was being mocked and ridiculed for its inability to properly render hands and fingers? When was the last time we've seen that be a problem with any of the billions of mock-ups that get done every single day? The way that this stuff is progressing is, on one hand, well, it's just another tool for creatives to use. So in the right hands, it's fantastic stuff. It's really going to expedite a lot of these production stalls so that you don't have to wait another 2.5 years for another franchise installment to come out. So that if, Hollywood fumbles the bag on some very interesting ideas, which I could list you a couple of examples, but we'd be here all day reciting everything that has come out of Hollywood in the past few years. But yeah, if you wanted to, amend some of that stuff, fix some of the casting, tighten up a bit of the script, you can go ahead and plop that into an AI. And why right now you won't get a, fully fluid CGI rendering of that, but the leaps and bounds that we have seen, what was it specifically? Like there was an AI video of Will Smith eating a bowl of spaghetti and how it looked a couple of years back and how it looks right now. It's eerily believable. Okay. And just think in a couple years time, just how easy it's going to be to just, plonk your ideas in for a Star Wars sequel trilogy. Okay. For, Fast and the Furious follow-up film to Tokyo Drift, if they would have, stayed out of the whole bank heist gimmicks and they would have just simply focused on street racing for 5 or 6 movies, that will immediately be at your ready at the tip of your fingers. The moment that you can think it is the moment that you can create it, thanks to the leaps and bounds of AI. But then that also lets me think about the idea that once studios, which they're already working on their own internal AIs, don't let you dissuade you from, oh no, we really want to stand up for creatives. But in reality, it's like, yeah, if we don't have to work with any of those prissy bitches over there in the art department, yeah, we can just go ahead and use AI as the tool as intended. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and push you out at a moment's notice. Don't call us, we'll call you. But we're going to get to a point where we're never going to see new actors take on new roles. You're going to have, multiverse Batman, where you're going to have Michael Keaton team up with Christian Bale, that teams up with Ben Affleck, that teams up with Robert Pattinson. Okay, take on a whole army of Supermen portrayed by Henry Cavill, George and Christopher Reeves, Dean Cain, Tyler Hoechlin, and David Cornsweet, I guess, perhaps. Who knows how that ends up working out for him. I even forgot Brandon Routh because everybody forgets Batman, or I'm sorry, not Batman, but Superman Returns. So long story short, well, I can understand, and depending on how they do it with Fast X Part 2, telling a completed story to bring back Paul Walker in some form or fashion, or maybe it's just going to be the character. They could recast them, but I'd imagine it's going to be some AI CGI abomination that's going to end up being the full and proper send-off. Well, that's fine right now. Just think about the over-reliance that Hollywood is going to use it for in the years to come, and well, if you thought creativity is dead right now, you ain't seen nothing yet. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.